So, sorry, technical difficulties. We're working with a new arm over here, if you may have seen that. Um, and we had some issues with the whole YouTube setup, but we're good to go now. So, today's video, or today's stream, is going to be post-processing silver, which, with the power of my new arm thing, I'll drop this down and I'll show you what we're doing. So these were cast last weekend, I suppose. Not all of them. These ones are older. Make a nice little visual. These ones were all cast, plus all of this, last weekend, and we're going to start to clean them up. I've done a little bit of work, obviously cutting off the model from the main sprue rods, and yeah, so we're going to go in with some carbide burrs, something like this. And we're going to, chew some of this off. We'll use some hand files, and hopefully we'll get some of these done. I think almost all the client stuff is good, but I still wanted to get some of this done. So, let me just bring the Fordham around so that you can see. So for anyone who's trying to get into jewelry making, this is one of those super necessary tools. This is a Fordham flex shaft. You've probably heard of it. They're like a Dremel, but they're way, way better. They have an interchangeable handpiece system. So in this case, this is the number 30. This is the most common one with a universal chuck, so it'll hold anything. Good for these little micro-sized drill bits. Let me see if I can adjust that for you. There we go. So, sorry, as I was saying, number 30, this is an odd-sized shank, but this one can, it's universal fit, so it can take all these little drill bits as well. We're going to go with this carbide topped burr, and we're just going to chew this away. So this is a little key lock. You can switch these handpieces out with whatever you want. Some of them are more ergonomically shaped. Some of them are, whatever. Comes with forward and reverse. This particular model, not all of them have that. They also make them with higher torque, if that's what you need. I'm going to put some safety glasses on, because this tends to get messy. Just going to move this arm a little bit for you guys so it doesn't get hit. There we go. That's the issue. All right. So much faster than a hand file. This is a little one. This is a bigger one. These are just, they chew through material like crazy. Best to get the carbide ones because carbide is, well, it's tungsten basically. I don't know if tungsten carbide are the same thing. I think it's an alloy. But either way, they're incredibly hard. So it does not wear down nearly as fast as as steel does. And yeah, makes things a lot faster. Of course, they are a little bit more dangerous. You know, it's a sharp bunch of blades that are whirling around at whatever speed you're working at, but the other nice thing, you'll notice this is kind of an egg-shaped one. I've got a whole, I have, but they usually come with a whole ton of different shapes. So you get flat ones, flat with a rounded top, or inverted cup, or whatever you need, so you can get in some of these little spots. And I'll be doing that shortly. I'm going to be switching between a number of different tools for doing this. One of them is going to be, if I can find the burr, there it is. It's going to be one of these. This is a sanding disc. You can get a whole set of them. This is the starter pack, as it were. I haven't gone through any of all of this yet, so I'm probably just going to buy another one of these. But anyway, these discs are a snap-on system. So this goes in the flex shaft, and you just take it off, and it snaps on. So this is a very, very rough grit. This would be for like hogging material off. I don't know what this one is, but it's fairly worn down. Some of them are on like a paper back. Some of the, like this one is plastic. Some of these are, I've never actually used this one. I think this one's for like polishing. So it's got like a plastic film and then like a felt. Anyway, we'll go through this in a little bit and we'll clean up the insides of here, right there. Probably do a little bit of filing on the back just to get rid of some of this abnormal texture in there. Anyway, back to the noisy stuff. I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure to this because the ridges are so big on this. I'm taking it very, very slowly so it doesn't dig and then like grab and travel all the way to my finger or something. Yeah. You can see here there was a little bit of issue with the casting. I think this is actually an issue with printing. There was a layer slip or something, or layer shift here. So I'm gonna fix that because obviously I've come this far. The back of the ring isn't, you know, it's all important, but it's not the main feature. So I'll just go back in with this tool and I will take all that off. Might not be the original ring, but who cares really. Just gonna adjust the camera again for you guys. The flex shaft sheath thing keeps hitting the arm, and I have a feeling you're getting some feedback. I know that's probably not what you're most worried about because it sounds horrible, but how's that? That's a little bit better. Again, sorry that this arm isn't quite positioned right. But anyway, so that's the majority of the work done. What the heck was that? That's the majority of the work done. So I'm going to switch to hand file now. Because this is all the teeth are in one direction. This one's a little bit rougher. You know, it just leaves a nice smoother finish. I'm also going to even out the back. You can kind of see there's a bit of a thick spot in the middle that's left over from the sprue that came in for the casting. So I'll even all of that out as best I can. This ring is so big and hard. So now we're going to go back to the flex shaft. And we're going to switch out for those discs that I mentioned earlier. Wherever I put it. My bench is small, but things tend to roll. I left it in the case. Huh, dummy. Alright, so this is the roughest disc that I've got, and I don't want to do that much. I want to smooth out the texture I've already done. This one doesn't actually have any grits. It's all labeled up here. It just goes coarse, medium, fine. Emery paper, Atalox paper, magnum plastic, sand plastic. Interesting. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. I'm just going to kind of go by feel. So this one's actually labeled as coarse. So I guess we'll pull out a fine one for later. I think I've used this one. Feels not right. Anyway. There we go. So the nice thing about these actually is I can mount the sandpaper itself facing this way or that way, depending on if I want to get like inside a crease or something, or flip it around, whatever's easiest, it doesn't really matter. This will all get smoothed out again. This is just to take off a little bit of material. Just trying to get that all down to the same plane. In an ideal world, I would have like a, looks like a fish mouth thing with a vacuum hose underneath, and that sucks away dust. I don't have one of those. The same company that makes this tool sells that as well. It's don't remember what they call it, but anyway, I would love to have one of those with like a face shield, and then the dust just goes straight down. And I mean, this apron is kind of collecting all of my silver scraps, but it's not collecting the dust that's kind of going out into the air. So in an ideal world, that'd be great. Also, I should probably wear a mask for this, but good luck finding those today. So I'm not going to be doing too much of this. Switch to the fine one now and continue. Alright. I don't think that's too bad. Definitely got rid of all the rough spots. Oh, actually, I see one more. There we go. Alright, I'm going to call that finished. Not finished, obviously, but pretty close. I will definitely go over this with 600 grit now. I have another little tool, fun tool. This is a 600 grit belt. I actually have a whole set of them. They all come in different colors, typically indicating the different grits. I've marked them because I can't remember what they are off. I don't use them enough, but they're nice. So when one spot wears out, you push this in. You can rotate it forward. And as you can see, I've kind of touched some wax to that, so it's a little bit gummy. I could probably just wipe that off. The shape overall, as you can see, it's nice. There's a bit of a rim here, which kind of serves as a track, so back here isn't necessarily useful. But up to here, there's nothing, so we can get in there. And the back kind of has this little bit of slack. I don't really use that too much, but I could see how it could be useful for some things. So this one is 600 grit, and maybe I'll actually start with 400. 400, 600, that's my usual. There we go. So like I said before, I don't know what grit this disc is. If I feel it, maybe this is actually a little finer. Anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. It's got a 50 on the back. I don't think that's 50 grit. It might be 500 grit or something. Maybe we'll actually just start with 600. And we'll just get all the lines going in the right direction. And then I'll flip the camera around to my little polishing wheel back here. And we'll give this a rough polish. This being, a demonic skull, I'm not going to polish every little bit in here. I'm going to just take the antique root and chemically patina this so that it gets shadow, and I'll go back over and just lightly buff the surface, and that will highlight things but also make nice deep shadows and give it a sense of depth and antique. And the other nice thing is that if it's got a bit of a rough finish, when you wear it, you're going to inevitably bump this against something. The little scuffs, they kind of get hidden with all the other little scuffs, so convenient. You won't feel the need to go back to your jeweler every time you get a little scratch. So you notice I'm polishing horizontally because so far all of my lines have been going circular this way. So when you go against the grain, you can see the contrast of the grit lines a lot better. And that just helps get a better polish in the end, or a more uniform polish. So I flipped it around to this little bit here, and I'm just gonna try to work it back and forth. That'll give me a little bit of a radius. It's not super important because I can do the same thing with a flat, just a little bit more arm movement. The inside of the ring as well we will tackle. Obviously a disc doesn't really help too much, but I have a barrel. It's called oh crud, where'd it go? there's one. So this is just it's called a split mandrel. And what I'll do, swap this out, and I should be able to find some sandpaper to slot in there, and that will. Then we'll get inside the ring like this. And we'll get that all nice and polished, and maybe I'll just do a light bit of sanding here and all over. It's very useful, very simple tool. But you got to make sure that you actually get them made out of steel. Sometimes they're like brass or bronze or something, and they're nickel plated. And this one's actually kind of showing that. So this might be a cheap one. I don't really know. It's they tend to last if you're careful with them, but you know, in the middle of a job, sometimes you just like put a ton of pressure on it and it breaks. Found a little bit of sandpaper here. There we go. I think I want to move my camera because this keeps getting bumped. Bear with me a second. We're not going to lose anything by switching. Actually, this will be a good opportunity to show you some of the rest of the studio. It's I downsized a lot, by the way, so for a jeweler, I know this is like the bare minimum when it comes to tools. So I just have this little Fordham polisher. It's variable speed, which is quite nice. This is a dust collector. This is for like wax work. You turn this on and you can adjust the heat. That's pretty much it. Like I have a full bench and everything dedicated, but I had to put it in storage for now. So anyway. Let's just put this over here. There we go. And now you won't get the camera knocked by this thing here. How's that? That feels better. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now what we'll do is we'll switch over to the polisher back here, and I'm going to use this Big Buff. This is got Tripoli put into it. Tripoli is, well, actually I can show you. The polishing compounds come in a bar like this. This one's for Gray Star. This is like the middle option. Gray Star is it's kind of got a bit of a cut like a grit, but it also is more towards the polishing end. Tripoli is only for cutting, so what it's going to do is just take off all those little ridge lines in there. So I'm only gonna just touch up on here, and then I'm going to do Gray Star, switch over. I'll show you the difference. So that's just, just a light press right here, and that's the sanding over there with 600 grit. But bear in mind, we still have 2 more to go. This is going to get quite shiny. Find the bar. So this is Tripoli, and you just rub it against the wheel. Every once in a while, you don't have to do it all the time. So I'm only touching the wheel, like just literally a press. I'm not grinding away. Because I don't want to take off any of these ridges, and this stuff, like I said before, is for cutting. This will take off material if you're not careful. Material that you don't want to take off. And I run my wheel pretty slow, because I don't want to, like this is a normal size felt, but like this guy's a lot smaller. I run this one a lot faster, but this one's so big it can get off balance and then vibrate, and I don't want to do that. So. It's looking a lot nicer already. So, I'll just zoom back out here and I'm going to explain something quick. To anyone who doesn't know. So this is the big one. This one is stitched. As you can see, there's two different stitches in there, and that makes this buff even harder. Some of them are like really, really tough. Some of them are actually compressed felt. And there's this guy. This one again has two rings, but I've pulled it apart and made it more fluffy. And then there's one after this that's even fluffier. And that'll be our final polish. But we're not going to do the polish just yet because there's another step that I want to go through. Here it is. So this one is specifically for red rouge, and as you can see, there's no stitching. It's just really really soft. So you'd call this one like a mop almost. You spin this one fairly fast, and you can bury the thing right inside of it, and it'll polish very, very lightly. Like it's not as aggressive as this guy, this one. This one will take off all the scratches. This one will just buff and shine and make it look pretty. I did kind of skip a step for the sake of the stream though. You're supposed to wash this between each step because you get, some of this stuff on it, and then you mix it up with the next one when you go to the next bar. But I'm not going to go just, bye, see you in 5 minutes type of thing. But anyway, so the next step, now that we're up to Gray Star, is I'm going to chemically patina this, and that'll turn it entirely black in all of the crevices, everything, and then we'll go back over lightly with something like this. And this one's for red rouge, but I have one for green rouge as well. Red is designed for yellow metals, like gold and stuff. This one's designed for like stainless and silver and stuff like that. So it can be aggressive if you put it on a hard buff, but usually here's the one actually, when you put it on a soft one like this, it's very, very light. So I need to give this a quick cleaning, and then I will be right back to give it more of a buff. Be right back. See if I can get this to do. Actually, I've asked my beloved partner to give that a quick wash for me. And we'll continue on to another piece, I think, until she gets back with that. So let's go on to this one. This one looks like fun. frame this right. That doesn't look bad. All right, so we're gonna, just while Shannon's washing that for me real quick, we're just gonna go back to, move on to a new piece. And we're gonna go back to the heavy burr, and we'll take off this sprue end and in there. And ultimately these will get the same kind of treatment. So, where the heck did I put my burr? There it is, right in front of me. I'm sure you all saw it. Something I've got to do shortly is, here, I'll show you. So you can see the motor up there, and it's on this this steel rod. This steel rod normally is a pretty good height, but in this case it's a bit too tall, so I'm probably going to cut it down by about that much. And what that's done, actually, is it's caused me to break the sleeve on the flex shaft just here. Not too big a deal. You can switch this out pretty fast. Oh, sorry, it wasn't showing you. I've created a crack here on the sleeve. You can switch these sleeves out pretty easily. It's not too hard. They're not expensive or anything, and this so far has lasted years. So, you know, it's not too bad, but could be better. If I just lower it, and then I'm not putting such a bad angle on it down here, as you can see. Alright, so looks like Shannon's brought that back, but since I'm set up, we'll finish this, and then we'll go to the chemical patina. I do apologize for the noise. It's just because this is so aggressive, I suppose is a good word. But it beats filing. It really does. And if anyone has any question about this, like, yeah, I'm hogging off a lot of material, but as you can see, I'm wearing this apron thing. This is catching the majority of the silver dust, just so that so I can collect this later. We'll send it to a refinery, and we'll get some money back for it. When it comes to silver, I think it's less than $1 a gram right now. This is probably about a gram, so that's maybe, I don't even know what that is, honestly, I'm just guessing. But I mean, like, compared to gold, which is about 50, or no, depends on the carat, obviously. I think the last time I looked, it was about $30 a gram for like 18 carat, or maybe it's 14 carat. Anyway, like, in that case, you want to save every single little dust particle with gold, but for silver, I'm not too worried about it. In case you're wondering, yes, I am worried about this catching and then hitting my finger. I'm just being very cautious. And I will, of course, get my finger out of the way when I think it's in danger. I think a flat one of these would be better, but I don't know where they went, so I'll just deal. There we go. It's not bad. Okay. This is when modifying your bench pin is very useful. Some of these just come out as a brick. You have to actually cut the V. Some people have like a micro V, and then they've got a little cradle so you can put this stuff in and cut if you're resizing a lot. For me, I've just got general use, and they're so worn down I could probably stand to replace it. But at the same time, I've seen these things get worn down to nubs, so I'm just looking for low spots like here. I didn't quite get down far enough in the middle, so I'll just attack that a little bit more aggressively. We'll blend this out. I know I went a little bit over, but in the end, it'll make it all look nice and clean. Alright, not too bad, not too bad. I will of course go back over this and go through the same process I did before, but this one has now been washed and scrubbed with just soap and water. You don't need anything too fancy. The best, fancy option is actually called an ultrasonic machine, and what it does is you fill it with a chemical. It heats it so that it breaks this stuff down better, and it vibrates at like ultra high frequencies, and it gets rid of all of the investment that might be in the, or not investment, the polish that might be in the cracks and inside especially. It's mostly for like stone setting and stuff like that, or it's really for general use. But anyway, it's the fancier option. A little bit of Dawn dish soap and a toothbrush work just as well sometimes. So I'm just going to be 1 second, and I'm going to get that chemical. So use a glass beaker. And Jack's Silver Blackener. Good stuff. All right. So this stuff works pretty instantly. As long as the metal's clean, of course, it works instantly. It's a little bit. It says it's just an irritant, danger. So actually, severe skin burns. Okay, so yeah, this stuff is not exactly healthy in any which way, shape, or form. But relative to other stuff, it's actually quite tame. Just want you to see the best angle of this changing. Just needs a couple of minutes. I just need to get a pair of plastic tongs because this stuff, as it says, is corrosive and it does attack metal, like not metal, like steel, stuff like that. So it still needs a little bit more time, but you can see it's turning gray. Oops. It's a little bit uneven. Probably needed a bit more of a scrub, but that's okay. I definitely needed more of a scrub. I think I'm going to pass this off to my partner again just so that we can continue with the stream. And she will neutralize that and give it, hopefully it'll come back nice and black. And we can finish this polish off. Un momento. So, we'll continue on with this guy while that's happening. We'll go back to this aggressive bit and we'll get inside the jaw here. Actually, funny, with this jaw, this one didn't print properly. Where's the other one? There it is. So this is what it was supposed to look like, kind of gnarly with little itty bitty teeth, sharp pointy ones, which will of course get kind of polished off, so they're not as uncomfortable. But anyway, the bottom of this jaw didn't print properly, so I had to build this up with wax and the wax pen, and kind of give them some new dentures. Doesn't look bad though. I mean, if you didn't know the difference, it wouldn't really matter. So that was a nice little save, especially since this was, I think this was the X10 one, printed in X10, Blue Cast X10. That's the most like expensive stuff I have. I think it's almost $1 a gram when you consider the additive that you can put in it. There we go. If anyone's wondering, this model, most of my models, honestly, I just bought off of CG Trader. If you haven't heard of CG Trader, you should go check it out, especially if you're into 3D printing. It's kind of like Thingiverse. Thingiverse is mostly free, and that's wonderful. But finding work, like this, is unlikely to be found on Thingiverse. So anyway, CG Trader, they have sales all the time. I think this model I got for $5. This one was $3. This one, I don't remember what they all were, but I don't spend a whole lot of money on them. And you get them in various file types, whatever you need. This one was an original by myself that I did. There's a Blue Cast one. So anyway, there's quite a few few options if you want to get into this, but you don't think that you have all the skills. Like, I have no idea how I'd make this, but you can buy it for $5. You couldn't make it for $5. Oh. And it looks like the pieces come back. Thank you. I'm gonna let that sit for another minute or so. Yeah, that's much better. All right. So now it's less of a stone color, and it's actually going that dark antique black that I want. Robin Pete's Workshop. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at comments now. Yeah, I did put them in the tumbler first, pretty much immediately after casting, especially with these hollow pieces. When I want to get the investment out from inside the hollow, then I'll run it through the tumbler, and that tends to get rid of most of it. The polish, like, it wasn't a high shine this time. There must have been some issue with like some dirt in the shot. I find that that initial one is almost always a little bit grungy looking. It doesn't always make the pieces pop like super polished or anything, but sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of that chemical. There we go. So there's what it did look like, and there's where we're at now. So this doesn't need to be neutralized in anything crazy, it just needs to be rinsed off. I'm just going to go do that quick, and then we'll switch over to the polishing machine again, and we'll finish this up. So I'll just be 1 second. All right, so just rinse with water. Get rid of that. Make some space. So this, as I mentioned before, this is the softest buff I have. Almost called a mop. And this one is, we're running Green Rouge. Back of the shank, I'm going to spend a little bit more time. Buff that off. Make the back shiny, but the front, I'm just going to lightly press up against and just get highlights, because this particular model is so ridged. Contrary to how it looks, it is actually buffing. It's just the compound is kind of building up on the surface. I actually have another little trick that I kind of have to do anyway. This one's for polishing the inside of the ring, like that. So I'll just rub some compound on this. But because this is hard, and I want to just get highlights on the ridges, I'll also buff it against this. I don't like to run these ones too fast because they stick out so far. If they get unbalanced, they whip around like crazy. So I will do the inside of the ring, but I just want to finish up the highlights on the outside first. This is a fairly thick inside ring polisher. They do make them like really, really skinny, I may go in with that later. It's not too bad. Could definitely get in here a little bit on the cheekbones, but for the most part, I'd say that's not bad. Again, like I mentioned before, this is a lot of compound that's built up on the surface. So maybe I'll wipe this off with a rag. That'll make it a little bit cleaner. Yeah, so it's pretty gross. It's funny how you have to make a mess to make something pretty. I have another option as well, specifically for in this area. See how that oxide didn't quite come off? I can use this. This is called a knife edge wheel. I just put a little bit of compound on this. This is compressed felt, and when this spins, I can get right into the crease and polish up all the. Like if I wanted to, I could get every single one of these, but I don't want to. So we'll do that later. For now, I just want to take off the surface to show you the final product, because I think I've been streaming long enough. Yeah, that looks good. There, I'm pretty pleased with that. There we go. So, like I said before, I will go back in. I'll probably go back with like a brush or something to get inside here. I'll go back with the knife edge, but for the most part, that's the finish I want. And I'll mark that as sterling, and then that'll be that. This is finished, a finished product almost. A little bit of what's the word? A little bit of selfless self-promotion, I suppose, before we end the stream. So if you want to learn how to do this stuff, this is particularly 3D printing, but if you're interested in just taking the beginner steps of how to do casting and jewelry, stuff like this, I am running a course. The signups are now open. The overall cost is $300, but that includes like $100 worth of tools. I'm not making any money off of that. That's just how much they took the cost, and all the materials you need to make 4 projects. If you're interested, just you can go to our website, clearmindcasting.ca, and if you have any questions, email or whatever works for you. And yeah, we can do this together if you want. I'll also talk a lot about the casting process, like how to get good results, some of the tools you might need if you wanted to start your own business, things like that. So anyway, thanks for coming, guys. I know this was a bit odd, a little bit shaky. In the end, we are trying to move the stream over to like an OBS system, and have, you know, proper overlays and all the little fancy things, but the computer we have isn't quite good. We have to upgrade. So right now we're just kind of running it off the phone, but it will get better. I will be streaming more. I'm gonna go wash my hands. Thanks for tuning in.